Hello, and you're all very welcome to Along the Line, brought to you by CK Streaming. Coming up from the show this week, we're going back in time to look at Tipperary's 1991 All-Ireland Hurling final success in what was a great year for Tipperary. Joining me once again is Sean Maher. Sean, an exciting show coming up.
Yeah, Tomas, a very exciting show coming up ahead of us with a few Tipperary hurling legends. So, been to see get their take on the 1991 winning year, and hopefully be a good listen to it now.
Yeah, Pat Fox should have some good stories to tell. He had a great year that year.
Which is, he won a great year, one of the best tip hurlers going, so he'll surely have a few good stories to hear about.
Yeah, and Conal Bonnar then as well, and Ken Hogan. Ken would be no stranger to be talking.
Yeah, he's used to it, sure. He's on RTE and he's on all these big shows, so he's a great speaker, Ken, and Colm is the same, so.
Yeah, just before we get on to that, just looking at the latest announcements coming from Croke Park, and after a meeting with the government, doesn't look like we'll see any action before Easter.
No, absolutely. The new guidelines, it looks like it won't be hurled until after Easter at the earliest. So it's a shame, really, because you'd be raring to get onto the field now at this stage. The evenings are getting a bit brighter, and you'd be just mad to go a bit of hurling in February. But again, what can we do? Hopefully, if we wait till Easter, now the cases might drop a bit. But I'd say, at the looks of things, it might be till May or June by the time we get in the hurling field. But hopefully now the cases are dropping every day. So if we keep doing what we're doing right and what the government are telling us, we might be launching the fielders a bit sooner. So we'll just have to wait and see how things pan out.
Yeah, hopefully, as you said, the numbers will start dropping and we can get back. I suppose the main thing at the moment is to stay safe. A new feature on the show now where we go down memory lane and recall some of Tipperary's greatest ever triumphs. This year celebrates 30 years since Tipperary won their 24th All-Ireland Senior Hurling title, defeating Kilkenny 116 to 15 points. Along the road to that victory, they defeated Limerick in the Munster semi-final in Semple Stadium before moving on to Páirc Uí Chaoimh to take on the old enemy Cork in a never-to-be-forgotten Munster final. After getting out of Cork with a draw, both teams headed back to Thurles 2 weeks later to produce one of the greatest games of hurling ever seen, with the Premier County eventually getting over the line to claim their 34th Munster title. After defeating Galway in the All-Ireland semi-final, Declan Carr led his team into battle against Kilkenny on Sunday the 1st of September 1991, where a fortuitous goal from a Michael Cleary free early in the second half and a man-of-the-match performance by Pat Fox saw Liam McCarthy return to Tipperary. I'm delighted to say that joining us along the line to help us go down memory lane and reminisce on a summer that will never be forgotten are some of the heroes who played a pivotal part in that success. We've goalkeeper Ken Hogan, wing-back Conal Bonnar, and 1991 Hurler of the Year, Pat Fox. Lads, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Thomas.
Ken, great memories. Hard to believe it's 30 years.
Hard to believe it's 30 years. It really makes us into old, as the fella says, legends at this stage, because 1991 was a super year for us. We had won the All-Ireland in 89. And of course, then the famous 1990 final against Cork, when things didn't exactly work out to plan. So I suppose we prepared hard for 1991. It was a huge year for us. We reached the league semi-final, unfortunately beaten by Offaly, but I think that was the catalyst for us moving on to the championship, because we had huge games that year. Limerick and, of course, Cork in a replayed Munster final, Galway, our old nemesis, and, of course, the great rivals Kilkenny in the final. So it was really a dream year for us, but a lot of hard work and soul searching went into it beforehand, before we prepared for that year.
Yeah, Pat, a great year for you. Everything just seemed to go right for you.
Yeah, I had a great year. Yeah, it was one of those years. I didn't expect it after the year before. 1990 was such a bad year for us, like the Cork beating us. But yeah, it was one of those years, just like everything went right. And but I think it was a culmination of great training for 3 or 4 years prior to that. Like, I think had that team in great shape at that stage, you know what I mean? And I was coming to an end of my career at that stage. But I was probably my best. I was feeling as never as fitter as I was that time. So yeah, it was one of those great years for me. Yeah.
Yeah, Conal, I remember meeting you in Rawley Bowlands before the 16 final when you were celebrating the 25th anniversary. And something that struck me that night was the camaraderie between you, even 25 years on. Obviously, going back 25 years previous, that was a huge thing, especially digging in for each other in them 2 games against Cork.
Yeah, I must say, I joined the team as one of the younger members of the team. And look, it was clear very, very early on. They were a close bunch, and they were very welcoming to the likes of myself, John Lahey, and Declan Ryan. And, by 1991, we had been on a couple of team holidays, and we won the All-Ireland in 89. We'd been to Florida, and we'd been to the Sky Dome. And the guys had previously been to the Canaries. So we had great camaraderie and some great trips together, and that team really bonded. But that team equally felt by 1991 we'd something to prove. And so we had a cause as well, and a cause together that we had to achieve, which was really, really important.
Yeah, I suppose starting at the start of the year, Ken, back then obviously the league was started before Christmas and there'd be a few games, and you had played Cork, Dublin, Clare and Limerick before Christmas and Waterford then after Christmas, and you'd beaten them by a combined score of 46 points. You then played Wexford in Enniscorthy and lost by a point, and Kilkenny beat you by 10 in the stadium, but you'd done enough to get through to the league semi-final, and probably one of the worst games of hurling ever, that 1-7 points defeat against Offaly. Michael Dyson getting a late goal. What was the feeling like in the camp coming out of Limerick that heat?
Yeah, I suppose we have to think about, first of all, our preparation for that National League. I always was a fan of playing leagues before Christmas. We enjoyed the games before Christmas in more ways than one, to tell the truth, Tom, because obviously the pressure was off, the championship was over. You play your league games, you'd meet up with the lads maybe afterwards for a drink or two, have a good chat. And like you mentioned Enniscorthy, I don't think we ever won in Enniscorthy anyway. I don't ever recall. I think we won one game in Enniscorthy, but we used to go down there an awful lot to play challenge matches as well, thanks to Johnny. But from our point of view, I suppose Liam Hennessy had come in. I think we have to mention Liam. He'd come in as our trainer, and obviously a Kappa white man, but with a huge athletic background. And obviously, as we well know now, Dr. Liam Hennessy, he's involved, hugely in the preparation of athletes. So, and has been successful with a lot of teams. So Liam came in, he was a young man himself, but he left a huge impression on us all in his professionalism and the way he carried out his work regarding us getting us fit, because some of us wouldn't have been the fittest. And I suppose the Bonnars led the show there from that point of view, in the fact that they were always supremely fit and enjoyed the training. But I think, the training was on another level that year. I'm sure the lads will agree. But unfortunately, we came a cropper, whether it was through complacency or whatever, in that National League semi-final. It was an awful damp day. And I remember the scoreline well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but it was 1-7 points.
That's right.
You nowadays that have it scored after 10 minutes, Mikey Dyson got the goal, with about 10 minutes left. Mick Ryan came in at full forward, or was playing at full forward. So we just weren't. We were trying a few things. I suppose Babs was still in the experimental mode, and in fairness to him, they had supposed to see what was at their disposal. But there was a lot of soul searching done after that game, and we had a huge meeting in the stadium afterwards, Tom. Maybe to choose the Wednesday night when we came back for championship training. And as was the tradition that time, after the National League, I'm sure the lads will agree, a few lads weren't called back. There'd be fellas that wouldn't get the call back. And then once you came into the first night in training, there was no social media or phones that time. So then you just looked around the room and saw who was there. And obviously there was missing faces as well. So that meeting led to a lot of soul searching before we played championship.
Yeah, Pat, I believe Declan Carr gave a few home truths at that meeting, did he?
Well, yeah, no doubt. We were all sitting down in the dressing room that evening after whatever training session it was. The meeting was arranged anyway, and But Declan didn't live. He didn't leave anyone out in the debate, and he tore at all the players, and he hit Babs and he hit the selectors. It was incredible what he had said, and there was no way I was expecting this was going to happen. But I'll tell you, everybody kind of got involved in the meeting, and it was a great meeting as it turned out. But you know what I mean? It was one of those things. If it didn't go right, we could have been in a lot of trouble. But it got into people's heads, and we took off from there after.
Yeah, so Conal, a few lads were saying Declan probably put his own place on the line there by attacking fellas. It wouldn't have been heard of, but it was probably the kick in the arse he needed, was it?
Absolutely. It was a dismal display against Offaly, and I think Ken mentioned complacency, and there was probably complacency all around from the players and management. And a real focus was required because everyone realised, I think, in 91 that our own hurling careers were on the line as well. Having won in 89 and then lost in 1990, if we continued that way, we're going to see an early exit in the championship, and your career quickly slips away from you, and the chances quickly slips away. So, in fairness to Declan, he saw all of that in front of him. He was captain of Tipperary, and he wanted to win in All-Ireland. And in fairness, there was no one going to stand in his way. And he set a great tone that night in terms of what was required, and people stood up. Everyone stood up. And I think even afterwards, there was an ongoing player management kind of committee that had an ongoing discussion. There was a leadership group picked. I think Ken was on it. That would discuss the whole Tipperary setup and how we were going throughout that year. And that was a huge input. And the players had a huge input, in fairness, the remainder of the year, which was fantastic.
Ken, you'd 6 weeks to get ready for championship then, so you had plenty of time to iron it out. I'd say, going into that Limerick game, what was the feeling like in the lead up to it?
The feeling was pretty good, Tom, because I think Declan showed great courage to stand up to the fellas. Declan was, far less experienced than maybe some of the older statesmen or the elder statesmen that were there. So he showed great battle, and he was born in Dublin, and his Dublin accent came out that night in the way he took on the lads. He had that bit of battle to put things on the line for us. So I think the onus came back upon us. And in fairness to the management, they said, well, we're going to, do our bit, but you've got to do your bit. So I think everybody felt we needed a point to prove. I think people were sort of smiling at us, and even going down to the Park Avenue Hotel for the bite to eat, there was men in there sitting down in the stools. And I think they were looking at us and say, well, you won in All Ireland, but have you proved yourselves yet? You've got to win a second one to show that what you're all about. So I think there was an extra impetus in our training. We played some difficult matches, challenge matches. I think we went down to Loughrea to play Galway, which wasn't an easy assignment to play. And it definitely, everything with Liam Hennessy, with Babs, Donny, John O'Donoghue, everything was more professional. Everybody towed the line. There was no missing training. We were into the 90s now, remember, Tom. So the fitness levels had gone up. And of course, I remember playing Limerick. We met in the Park Avenue the night before. And, Limerick, huge rivals. Conal, and particularly Pat, would be more aware of that than I would, where I live. But they were, felt, we had heard that they'd been playing well going into Munster Championship challenges and all things like that. So it was a huge game. And the one memory I have about it is that we met in St. Patrick's College, and we came back up to Derek O'Connell's, who was a great, a great patron of course, of the Park Avenue Hotel. And someone hadn't booked the bite to eat before the match. So we actually had to stand out in the yard and have our stambos and a cup of tea or whatever we're getting organised for the game. And in a funny sense, it relieved the tension for us because we were outside having the laugh, having the chat. And it took maybe the emphasis off the preparation for the game rather than having any tension. So we went up, and there was going to be no beating us against Limerick. That was a blood and thunder game for a long time, but we finished totally the superior team, and the lads were on fire out the pitch, and it was a sweet one to win, and it gave us that bit of impetus for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Conal, you missed that game through injury, and Limerick got off to a great start, 5-2, but the tackles were flying in. I remember Bobby Ryan got a nick and he had to come off for a couple of minutes, and Declan Ryan was covering back centre back. But in the meantime, John Kennedy picked up an injury, and Michael Ryan was coming on to make his debut. But I believe Babs and Donny Nealon had a difference of opinion on the sideline over whether to bring him in or not.
Yeah, myself and Colm were in the dugout. Colm had a groin injury, and I broke my hand in that challenge match that Ken talked about against Galway in Loughrea. That wasn't a simple match. So yeah, I was in the dugout, and so like two of your regular backs are not togged out, and then when John went down, I think he tore a calf muscle, and the only back in the dugout left was Michael Ryan, and so. Babs runs down and he tells Conor Stakelum to tug out, and Donny runs down and he tells Mike Ryan to tug out. And while the two lads are standing there, Babs and Donny are having a row over who's going on. And it was a funny scenario. Babs wanted to bring Michael Cleary back, wing back, and put on Conor. And Donny says, no, Mike Ryan is our back and he's gone on. So it was a tense moment between the two guys, and Conor and Nick Ryan were looking at each other, not knowing who was going to go on. And Babs would have turned around and let Mick know what he thought of him equally. So Mick went on with a lot of pressure going on, but performed exceptionally well and made a fantastic debut. Yeah,
some way to make your debut, like some pressure going in there.
Yeah, look, in particular, when the manager there, you know he doesn't want to put you on. And an arm wrestle there between Donny and Babs. And yeah, I must say it was tense in the sideline. And I'm sure it was tense out in the field, Ken, as well.
Yeah, Pat, Anthony Cross sending off 10 minutes before, or Anthony Carmody sending off 10 minutes before half time kind of changed the game, and you started getting top.
Yeah, I did. I was just going to bring it up about the sending off in that game. Yeah, the sending off, but just before that, there was some wicked hard pulling in that match that I never forget. I mean, I was at the end of getting the two right belts myself early on that game, but Anthony Carmody threw a very mean belt across Michael Cleary. Michael was just going down rising a ball, and Carmody just came across from behind and pulled straight across him while he was rising the ball. Pure stupid reaction that he made, but it was like that really settled us into the match. I think we were going, like, they did start well that day. I think it was 6 points to 3 at one stage in that game. But Big Cormac, I think, came to the fore. He got a great goal at the start of that match, put us back, I think, in with a right good chance. And I think Nicky got a goal in the second half. But yeah, as Ken said earlier, I think like we were a team that was developing well, and our fitness levels were way up at that stage, and we were beginning to go well. And you know, I mean, at the time, we had more experience than Limerick had anyway, so we had a great chance to beat them anyway.
Yeah, Nicky got a great goal there finishing up. Another long ball in by Joe Hayes. It's hard to believe that was his last goal for Tipperary.
Yes, very hard to believe it. Very hard to believe it, yeah. So Nicky was funny enough, like, and I look back on Nicky's career, you could see Nicky was hurling for 10 years prior to that with that Tipp team, and he was probably he had more hurling done than anyone on say at that stage. Because I was only after making a comeback, and I had very little training. The degree Nicky had done, and I think Nicky's legs were getting a little bit tired at that stage. So I think that was Nicky's last good year, I think, really.
Ken, 4 weeks then to get ready for the Munster final. Obviously lacking no motivation after what happened in 1990.
Oh, definitely. There was a huge build up to that, and obviously the cauldron that is Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Now, nowadays, I don't know what it is. Like, obviously, the knockout effect is huge at that time. You get one crack. You'll get one crack at the whip, and we were under no illusions going out to Páirc Uí Chaoimh. We hadn't won down there since 1920 something, and of course, Cork were emphasising the positives about the record down there. From our point of view, we were getting ready for the game. We believed in our own ability. We believed we could match Cork in every department. We trained well for that final. I mean, tickets were at a premium. Tickets couldn't be got, and it was really a carnival occasion, packed out. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the day was wet as well. It was a damp day in the park. But of course, it was a bonanza of scores, and Cork got a great start as well, which we had to repel. And thankfully, a fantastic second half, and Mick Ryan blew into the game, at left corner back, and Connor had started at full back. Noel went in full. Mick went in at left corner, blew into the game, and I think it was from actually one of these huge clearances that Patch latched on to and got an unbelievable goal. So drama right through with umpires' decisions. We felt we'd lost the chance maybe, but one last stroke of class from Pat. Nicky had a kick point disallowed, but one class stroke again from Pat. Calmness personified, like he had in 87 in the 87 Munster final. Got the equaliser, and we live to fight another day.
Yeah, Conal, you kind of know when you came out onto the field that day, the noise level was unbelievable, and you kind of know that you were going to witness something special that day. From a supporter's point of view, like I know I was only 12 myself, but I know that day you kind of know that you were going to witness something, but nobody could have believed what exactly we were going to witness that day.
Yeah, that was my first game back after the injury. So I was quite nervous coming out as well. It was such a big game. And I remember coming out behind Declan Carr, and there was a barrier just at the entrance to the pitch. And we came racing out, and Declan jumped out over it. And I heard the roar of the crowd. And didn't I fall out over it? I missed my... And I said, oh, God, this day isn't going to go great. But no, I must say that first half was an experience in itself. We were under an enormous pressure, a little bit against the wind. And that Cork team's tails were up. And when they started attacking, Kevin Hennessy did a real pomp about them, Tony O'Sullivan. And no, I remember that first half in particular. It was probably the most hectic 35 minutes I was ever involved in my life. And coming into half time was somewhat of a relief for us because, as Ken said, Cork really came at us, and we came back and we clawed our way back into the game in the first half. And at half time, we were somewhat calmer, kind of like, well, actually, we can match them, and we've matched probably the best of them. And we went out and we played a bit calmer in the second half. Mick Ryan, I think, steadied up the ship in the back line. But Cork's ability to get goals out of nowhere, and they just, like Kevin Hennessy and John Fitzgibbon, and even if we were doing most of the hurling, their ability to get goals out of nowhere and always, put us under enormous pressure. But thankfully, our forwards were fantastic on the day as well. Michael Cleary, I think all of them were well on the scoreboard. And it was probably one of the toughest games I was ever involved in. It was so tense from start to finish. And even though people say Cork aren't a physical team, that team was quite physical. Like, they were a big side, and every collision you felt it. So it was a tough game.
Yeah, you actually started well that day, Conal, where there was a chance of a goal. Nicky had a chance of a goal from the throw-in. Cormac got a ball and put it across to Declan Ryan, and you were 3 points to 2 up, and the roof just seemed to cave in. We didn't know what to expect after that. 3 quick goals.
Yeah, look, Kevin Hennessy has been doing it for years. Like, he connected on one in the air coming in. Very hard to defend against that. Impossible to stop. And at the time they started, they ran at us as well. Don Fitzgibbon was a fantastic man on the break, and they were throwing it around. And actually, it was very hard to prevent those goals in the first half, as the replay showed. Like when they get in around the square, I remember in the replay, and we'll probably come to it. 3 of us were around Kevin Hennessy when he turned to shoot, and I absolutely thought we had him, and he roofed it. Like he was a real goal getter, and I must say that was an exceptional Cork team.
Yeah, Pat, I suppose Nicky's famous quote after that match of he Duxie drown, and he's probably fairly critical of his own performance that day. But I've looked back at that match a good few times, and like in fairness, he didn't go hiding after. He two point chances, and he had a goal chance just after that. He hit into the ground, but the next ball came in, and Ger Cunningham went to come out, and he blocked him down, put it back over the bar. And if Nicky had to get a couple of points that day, I thought he actually done all right looking back at it. But he didn't go hiding, which you would see with a lot of lesser players probably. And if he did get a couple of points, John Considine probably would have been taken off with the way he was hurling. I think he's very critical of his performance that day.
Well, for Nicky would be always critical of his performance if he wasn't playing well, you know what I mean? Like he loved to be leading that team. He loved to be, he was always so good. To be a disappointment for him not to be playing very well, you know what I mean? But as I said before, Nicky had a lot of old injuries at that stage, and he wasn't in full health at that stage. And sure, look, you're going to be critical when you're not playing well. And sure, look, he had done it so many times for us before that. So like it was up to someone else to step into the bridge, you know what I mean? And sure, Michael Cleary and Johnny Leahy and Declan Ryan, they were really the main stay of that forward line as well, you know, at that stage. And so Big Cormac was outstanding at that year. So look, Nicky would have been disappointed, but sure, what could he do, you know?
Yeah, just talking about John Leahy there, he was still a young man. He was still under 21, and he took it upon himself. He scored a great goal just before half time to bring it back into it.
He did indeed, yeah. He actually ran from nearly the middle of the field, either along on the wing, and came towards the goal. And he tried to put it over the bar. And I think he got hooked, and he passed the ball out to Nicky, and Nicky tried to go for a point or a goal, I don't know which, and he fell on his knees. But didn't he kind of fall in front of Leahy, and didn't Leahy just scoop it into the net? And like I think only for Leahy's goal that day, at that stage of the match, I think we were in serious trouble, and an awful lot of credit went to Johnny Leahy for bringing us back into that game that day.
Ken, you started the second half well, and you were slowly coming back into it. But what a lot of people forget is in the middle of that, say, opening 10 or 15 minutes of the second half, you actually pulled off a point-blank save from Mark Foley, which was crucial at that stage.
Yeah, I suppose when it was a concession of, when you're blitzed with 3 goals, especially for a goalkeeper. Kevin Hennessy, Ger Fitzgerald was on fire, and Mick Ryan came in the second half and steadied the ship. But you're just trying to, as the old cliche says, the next ball, And as Conal said, the back line were under incessant pressure. We were under savage pressure. There was wave after wave of attack, and Cork were a flamboyant team. Mulcahy, Sullivan, they were absolutely on fire that day and bringing the game to us. So from that perspective, I suppose anything just to keep us in the game, every block, every movement. But from our perspective, we needed to get scores on the board. Mark Foley had come into the fray as well. He was a new kid in the block, had a huge final in 1990, as we know, against us. So I suppose in that situation, you're just hoping that every little thing will help, whether it's a block or a score. But from our perspective, just to stay in the game, to keep the belief with each other. And I think overall, Tipp hurled up a storm in the second half. It's all about breaks, Tom. And, we just had to wait and work hard to get those breaks. And eventually, it paid off by it seemed like a win for us. It seemed like a loss for Cork, at the end, at the final whistle.
Yeah, and just as you were coming back into it there midway through the second half, John Fitzgibbon pulls on a ball. There's no way you saw that, Ken, is there?
No, I suppose in actual fact, if it hit you, you're in big trouble, And that was his trait. That was his trademark. Off the ground, he scored him against Tipp. He scored him against Galway in All Ireland's. He was just a goal getter. He didn't do points, as he just went for goals. And Fitzgibbon, he was unbelievable, like the way he could double on the ball, and it hit the net before anybody even knew it. So that was and of course the arms raised as if the Cork salute is, we're on the way home, lads. This is it. We have it done. That type of arrogance he had, which you need for a brilliant forward. So I think, as a team, all our preparation, all our commitment to each other to give it absolutely everything to the death paid off that day.
Yeah, and I suppose, Pat, you just stayed tipping away the points, and eventually with 7 or 8 minutes to go, you got your chance from that long ball from Michael Ryan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was a great ball from Michael. Yeah, Michael was really holding well in the back line and getting on a lot of ball at the time, and he had a great delivery. Like, if you want to wait for Bobby Ryan for someone to hit the ball, you only go over 20 yards. You know what I mean? But at least Michael could hit it 120 yards. Yeah, but it was a great delivery of ball. Like, and I just lucky to be making a run across the field and look, and left my man and I snuck away from him easy enough, and look, it was easy enough to finish it when I was away. You know what I mean?
Conal, you eventually got level, and then Kevin Hennessy gets that super point underneath the covered stand. Did you think it was gone at that stage?
No, and I must say, at no stage that year, really, was there any sign of a tip giving up? And that was a fantastic score. Kevin Hennessy running down the line, I must say, and it really looked like the winning point. But I think Noel Sheedy epitomised the Tip attitude. I think it was Noel Sheedy who was halfway down the field with that ball, and he was meant to be fullback, chasing it out after the puck out. And Noel was one of the final passes that led to Johnny getting it, and then Pat eventually getting it over the bar. And I always remember Noel's drive down that field. There was no way we were being bet, and he was going to give every last ounce of energy towards that cause. So the game was happening so fast. You just had to keep going with it and keep working with it. And our forward line was fantastic, I must say. And you knew if we got enough of the ball down there, or even one more chance down there, there was every chance they were going to get a winning score or an equaliser. And look, and in fairness to Pat, he got enough of them in his day, but that one was as important as any.
Yeah, it could have been easy to throw in the towel after Nicky's chance. I remember I was in the uncovered stand with my mother, and I met my father after the match, and he was in the city end, and he was adamant that ball was over the bar. I never before and I never since heard him give out about an official, and he was going absolutely berserk with Nicky's chance. But just for luck, then we did get the chance back after then.
Yeah, look, it absolutely looked over the bar, even on the television when you look at it. But Ger Cunningham, and I'm sure Ken would have been no different, was very quick to the umpire waving it wide, and I think he had a bit of an influence on it. But in fairness, Tip came straight down the field again, I think, as I said, with Noel. And it was a real turning point for that team. I do think we come out of Cork with an awful lot of confidence. As Ken said, it was as good as a win. We had a number of people coming back from injury. So I think even though we lost Nicky for the replay, Colm then was back from injury for the replay, and we'd a number of people back. So I think we came out of Cork really believing. We took on the best of what Cork brought, and we matched it. And we scored more than them from scores. They got 4 goals, and we'd only 2 goals. So we did believe we could outscore them, and we just had to tighten up somewhat in the defence to try and prevent some of the scores. Yeah,
Pat, what were you thinking when you got that ball finishing up?
Well, sure. Look, as Paul said there, what a run from Noel Sheedy up the centre of the field that day. And if he had got a little bit of space to hit it himself, he'd have hit it over the bar. He showed serious determination, the drive that he that he drove up the field the way he did. And look at like Johnny and Nicky it kind of scrambled in as far as the boys in around the full foul. And I think I was so exhausted at the time that I kind of let the boys try and get the ball. And so just it broke to me, and I was hardly able. I just could just turn around and swing and let it over the bar, but I was out of my feet at that stage of the game, and what a relief to get that score, really.
So, Tipp get out of Cork with a draw. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for this week. But there's plenty more chapters to fill in this story, and I'm delighted to say that Ken, Conal and Pat will once again be back with us next week to finish off the story of a truly remarkable summer. They'll be telling us how, after returning to training to prepare for the final, disaster struck on their first night back training. You won't want to miss part 2 of this incredible story. Tune in next week as we once again go down memory lane with the lads. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, and don't forget to like and follow us on our social media platforms and to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll talk to you again soon, and please remember to stay safe.